I lived in my apartment for many years. It was in my name. I paid the utilities, bought the food, handled the repairs. Everything inside those walls existed because I worked for it. My son got married and brought his wife into the family. At first, they lived somewhere else. Later, they asked to move in with me. They said it would be temporary. They said they needed time to save money. I agreed. He was my son. During the first weeks, I tried not to interfere. They moved things, rearranged shelves, replaced curtains. Then they started making decisions without asking me. Furniture was dragged across rooms. My belongings were packed into boxes and pushed into corners. When I asked why, my daughter-in-law said this was more comfortable for them. One day I came home and the locks were different. They had changed them. I stood at the door of my own apartment and waited for them to open it. She said it was for safety. I did not argue. I still believed we were a family. Her voice became louder every day. She spoke as if she owned the place. She told me when I could use the kitchen. She told me which chair was now hers. My son either stayed silent or repeated her words. I watched how easily he stepped away from me. Soon she became interested in my money. She asked how much pension I received. She wanted to know where I kept receipts, papers, certificates. She asked where my passport was. I answered. I did not see danger. I thought relatives had no reason to harm me. I was wrong. One afternoon, I returned from the store. The drawer where I kept my documents was open. The folder was gone. Inside it were my passport, tax number, apartment papers, medical records, everything that proved my identity. I asked calmly, "Where are my documents?" She said, "I took them. They will stay with me." I demanded she give them back. She refused. My son said it would be better this way, so I would not do anything stupid. I asked what that meant. No one explained. I stood there and understood that in my own home I had become powerless. I tried to take the folder from her hands. She pulled away and called the police. She said I was aggressive, unstable, dangerous. When the officers arrived, she spoke first. She said she was protecting me from myself. She said she was afraid of me. They listened to her. They told us to solve it as a family matter. They left. After that, everything changed completely. Without a passport, I could not receive my pension. I could not go to the hospital. I could not apply anywhere. Every door required documents. I had none. I asked for them every day. I begged. I promised anything. She answered, "Behave well and maybe you will get them." It was blackmail. Then the real demand appeared. They wanted the apartment transferred to them. She said I was old and would not live long anyway. She said it would be easier for everyone if the property was already in their name. If I refused, she said, I would never see my documents again. My son stood next to her. Sometimes he nodded. Sometimes he looked away. He never defended me. I began to understand that they were waiting for me to surrender. They controlled everything. Food disappeared from the refrigerator. Sometimes it was locked. Lights in my room were turned off from the hallway. She told me I lived there illegally. She said they could throw me out whenever they wanted. In my own apartment. I repeated, "Give me my passport." She laughed and said, "Prove it is yours." At night, I could not sleep. I was afraid they would bring papers and force me to sign. I was afraid of any sheet of paper. I stopped trusting even a glass of water if they handed it to me. One evening, I heard her talking on the phone. She said the issue with the apartment would soon be resolved. She said I would not go anywhere because without documents I was nothing. That was the moment I understood. This was not conflict. This was a plan. The next morning I went to a friend. I told her everything. She said I must go to the police again, officially, with a statement. I was scared, but I went. At the station they spoke to me coldly. They asked why my relatives would steal from me. They hinted that maybe I had forgotten where I put the folder. I insisted. I wrote the complaint. They told me to wait. My daughter-in-law found out the same day. At home she screamed that I had betrayed them. She said I would be on the street before any answer arrived. My son repeated that I had made a mistake. But something had changed inside me. Fear remained, but obedience disappeared. I started collecting proof. I recorded conversations. I wrote dates, times, words. I visited offices. I stood in lines. Some people laughed at me. Some told me it was useless. They sent me from one door to another. I kept going. Weeks passed. At home, the pressure grew. She insulted me openly now. She said no one would believe an old woman. She said even if I shouted, nothing would happen. My son avoided my eyes. I waited. Then one day officials came to the apartment. There had to be a check because of my complaint. I saw panic in her face for the first time. She tried to smile, tried to act calm. They asked about my documents. She said she had not taken anything. She said I was confused. I said they were with her. They asked her to show them. She hesitated. She argued. But she had to bring the folder. My hands were shaking when I saw it again. Everything was inside. Almost everything. In my passport there was another paper. An application prepared for transferring the apartment. My data was printed there. Only my signature was missing. They had been waiting for that signature. No one could call it care anymore. It was clear. The officials took notes. They warned them. They returned the documents to me. I held them and felt not relief, but emptiness. Too much had already happened. After that, my son stopped talking to me. My daughter-in-law looked at me as if I had ruined their lives. She said I would regret it. Some time later, they moved out. They packed their things loudly, slammed doors, cursed me. Before leaving, she repeated that I would pay for what I had done. I stayed alone, in my own apartment, with my passport in my hands. Silence filled the rooms. There was no more shouting, no orders, no threats. But there was also no family. I had lost my son while trying to remain a person. People like to say that blood is stronger than anything. I learned something else. Greed is stronger. Fear is stronger. The desire to take what is not yours can erase any relationship. I still remember the moment when she said, "Prove the passport is yours." In that sentence, I heard the truth about my place in their lives. I was an obstacle. I was paperwork standing between them and property. They did not need me. They needed my signature. I survived. I kept the apartment. I kept my name. But I understood the price. Trust does not return after this. A mother cannot forget how her child watched and said nothing. Sometimes I imagine what would have happened if I had been weaker, if I had agreed, if I had signed. I would probably be outside, without a home, without protection, with the same people passing by me on the street and pretending they did not know me. They expected me to break. I did not. Now I lock the door myself. I keep the documents close. I do not answer unknown calls. I learned to rely only on myself. The worst pain is not when strangers hurt you. The worst pain is when your own family calmly tries to erase you.